So, hello and good morning to all of you. Uh, this is Prasenjit Biswas coming live, and today I will be discussing about using technical analysis from a practitioner standpoint. So, thanks to the Spider software for giving me this opportunity to conduct this session today. And in this webinar, we will see how we can use theory into practice and generate actionable trading ideas. Just to give a brief overview of the topics that I will be covering today. Uh, Firstly, I'll just go through a quick refresh of the basics of technical analysis and the essence of technical analysis and what is the use of technical analysis and all that. And then we will look at trend identification using trend lines, and that will be followed by the concepts of pattern trading and how you can generate actionable ideas using pattern trading. And lastly, we will also look at the challenges that we face while approaching the market, and when it comes to the real life trading. And it's not about the knowledge or the ability to pick stocks, but your ability as a trader to convert your ideas into money. So that's where all the problems crop up and the challenges come in to the picture. So we will look at all of it. And so before I proceed any further, just about to give a background about myself. My name is Prasenjit Biswas, and I hold the CMT and the CMT charters from the US, which is basically about technical analysis. These are the charters from the technical analysis from US. And presently, I'm working for Kotak Securities as a derivatives analyst, and my core strength lies in the momentum trading and the short term trading. So I'll be sharing my experiences and what I do in my day to day life, and all of that is going to be covered today. So let's just begin. So basically, the concept of technical analysis is not new. It's basically a 300-year-old concept. And the first trader to use technical analysis was a Japanese rice trader whose name was Sokyo Homa. And back in the year of 1600, he was using certain candlestick patterns to ascertain the movement of the rice that he used to trade. And then in the late 1900, in the 1950s, the Charles Dow is, who is the father of the modern technical analysis. He came up with a lot of innovative ideas, and the theories that we are using today are all came up from his ideas and the concept that he developed back then. So basically, technical analysis is, as we know, it is the study of the market generated information, mainly the price and volume data. So what we do is, we look at charts. That is what is often referred. The study of charts is what technical analysis often is confused with a lot of people, and so that's what is what we are going to look at today. And then the study of technical analysis does not deal in certainties, it deals in probabilities. There are certain patterns which are expected to repeat over and over again from time to time, because the investor behavior does not change. So they are going to react in a very similar way, and people are going to react to certain situations in a very similar way that they did last time. So that is the basic framework of the technical analysis, and all the theories are based on these fundamental principles. And then when it comes to the time frame, yes, of course, you can use technical analysis from a very short term to a very long term time horizon as well. Say, for example, you can use technical analysis to predict what will happen to the stock in the next 20 minutes, and you can also predict the movement of the stock over the next 5 years or maybe 7 8 years as well. So it is for all the time scale traders. So now, what is the role of charts? So as we know, there are basically various types of charts: line charts, bar charts, candle charts, and then a whole host of Heiken-Ishii, point and figure, and market profiles, so and so forth. So we are aware of the plotting techniques, and there are a lot of ways how you can plot the price and volume data. So the question is technical analysis only about charts? So, or what is the exact role of charts? If I were to answer this question, then I would say that basically, if you are looking at the data on the left hand side, which is a time series data, so on the left hand side you can see a table where you can see the a series of prices, and the dates are also shown. So now if I only showed you this particular table, and if I would have asked you what is the inference, so I'm talking about this particular table. So by only looking at this table, it would be very difficult for anyone to understand what is really happening. But on the other side, if you were just simply looking at this particular chart, it gives a very clear understanding of what has happened in this particular table, right? So this is what the chart does. So basically, charts are for the convenience, right? So it is not necessary to always have a chart in front of you if you were using technical analysis. So basically, the idea is that charts are for the convenience and for a better visual inspection of the price dynamics, and they are not only about charts, right? Because if you were to look at the automated models, which are based on some algorithm or a set of rules or a set of logic to buy and sell, they don't need charts. There you don't need a chart, right? So that is the whole idea. And then of course there are various types of charts, as I said, and in terms of the scale, there is a linear and a log chart as well. So this is what we probably already know, and all of you are most of you are already familiar with. So now the next point is that how do you identify trend? So in technical analysis, the trend identification happens to be one of the most important and the I would say the most vital element of your analysis. If you get the trend right, you get your trends right. If you get your trend wrong, you are like not going anywhere. You will end up losing money. So to identify a trend, there are actually various schools of thoughts. Like a lot of people use indicators, which could be based on moving averages, Ichimoku's bands, oscillators. So there are a whole host of indicators. At least there are about 30 to 40 indicators that I am aware of, and quite on and off I look at them as well. And then you have chart pattern techniques, which is what we are going to discuss today. So where we look at certain geometrical shapes in the price plots, where this could be like a triangle or a channel, or maybe even the wedges or the head and shoulders, and the likes of that. And then you have the Japanese candlestick patterns, which is in a way a very old technique, and it was first, that is what I said, the first Japanese trader was a candlestick trader, Mr. Sokohama. And there you have a lot of patterns which are like hammers, dojis, piercings, engulfing, so on and so forth, which just the list goes on. And you also have elitations who use wave principles, basically to identify the context of the price movement. So the idea is that there are a lot of techniques, and the list just goes on and on. Now if you were to ask me what is the most easiest and the effective way to identify a trend, which can be learned very easily and which is like a very powerful tool, so I would say it's basically the trend lines. So now when we talk about trend lines, they are basically a set of lines that you draw using certain points which are very critical. Maybe it could be the line joining the lows or the important highs. So that's what gives us the trend lines. So trend lines are like a very rigid lines. Now in comparison to a trend line, even the moving averages also serve a very similar purpose to that of a trend line, where the only difference is that a moving average is basically like a rope which is flexible in nature, and a trend line is very rigid, which does not bend, and it's like a straight line. So that is the basic difference between a moving average and a trend line. So moving averages are of various types. It could be exponential, linear, or it could be wilder averages. So there are a whole host of indicators available using moving averages, right? And they all serve the purpose of identifying the direction of the price. So it's all about trend identification. And on the other side, trend lines, they are simply uh, connected lines which join the important highs or the lows. So, for example, in an uptrend, as we know that an uptrend is a sequence of higher highs and higher lows. So this is what I have shown here, that in this particular area, you can see that the price is just drifting higher and higher while it makes a sequence of higher lows. So the low is always higher than the previous one, so it is a sequence of higher lows. So that is what defines an uptrend. So once you connect these sequence of higher lows, that will give you the trend line defining this particular uptrend. Now, similarly, in the case of a downtrend is basically a sequence of lower highs where you connect the reaction highs and you get the trend line defining the downtrend. So in case of an uptrend, you join the higher lows to get the trend defining trend line, and in case of a downtrend, you basically connect the lower highs to get the downtrend. So this is the basic, and then the other important points are you need 2 points to join or to be able to draw a trend line, and you need, of course, a minimum of two, and of course there could be more and more points lying on that trend line. So the potency of that trend line would depend on the length of the trend line. Like if a trend line has been running for about 2 months, and in comparison to that there is a trend line which has been running for 2 years, so of course the trend line which is running for 2 years will have a lot more importance and the potency, because the idea is that a lot of people would be looking at that trend line, and based on that trend, a lot of money is involved, a lot of people have been involved in that particular trade. So when that breaks, obviously the quantum of the move will be much more significant and higher as comparison to a trend line which broke, which was just for about 2 months and which broke finally. So the length is very important, and then the spacing between the points. So what you need is that the points need to be equally spaced. So if they are randomly spaced, like if this is the situation that if this is the point and then this, so if it is all randomly spaced, then it doesn't add to a good trend line. But on the other side, if the spacing between the lines are very symmetric in nature, so that is what kind of gives you a nice rhythm on the trend, and obviously that trend line is going to be more effective. And lastly, the angle of the trend line. So a trend line which is somewhat horizontal or about just about 30 degrees or to the extent of about 45 degrees are the ones which are more potent in nature. And if some trend line is really vertical in nature, that really doesn't make much of a sense, because if the prices have been just going vertically up, and then this is how you draw the trend line, and then obviously if the prices just go sideways, so obviously you will find a breakdown of the trend line, so which does not actually make any sense. So if a vertical trend line is there, you got to ignore that, because that's not really any trend line, that is not defining the trend, right? But on the other side, if the angle is flattish or about 30 degrees or to about 45 degrees, that's what is very important, and that's what we are going to pay attention to. Now, coming to the next part, which is the the practical challenges that you will face while you are drawing trend lines. Now, as I said, you need 2 points to be able to draw a trend line. Now, let's say in an ideal case, what happens is that if an uptrend is there, then you would find a sequence of higher lows, and in an ideal case, the points 1, 2, and 3, they will all lie in the same plane, and they will fit in very nicely. But in reality, that doesn't really happen. in reality what you find is a more complicated case like these, where the points are not falling on a straight line, they are kind of going to be misaligned, and that's where the experience comes in, and that's where all the game becomes difficult. So how do you deal with this misaligned cases is what we have to understand. So now let's say in the first plot that I have shown here, if let's say the points 1, 2 and 3, they are not falling in a straight line, then how do you draw the trend line? So ideally you can draw three types of trend lines: the line joining 1 and 2, and then 1 and 3, and then the points joining 2 and 3. So out of these three combinations, which one is the most logical, and what is the right way to draw a trend line in this particular situation? So if you were firstly to consider the trend line joining 1 and 2, which is the trend line joining 1 and 2 is this one. Sorry for the drawing. Just try to draw it once more. So I'm talking about this particular trend line, right? So now in this particular case, what is happening here is that if you are drawing in this particular fashion, then there is a breakdown at this point, and what you see after that is that it kind of makes a point low of 3, and after that there is a sharp bounce in the prices, right? So now how do you define the present trend? So in this case, the answer is that you should be looking at the trend line joining 1 and 3, because the idea is that in any trend line it should in a way consider all the points which is lying at or above that particular trend line. So if I am joining the trend line joining 1 and 3, then in this case you can see that the point 2 is well taken care of because it is above the support trend line. So the support in this way is redefined. So now you can look at the trend which is now in existence in a different way, and the line joining 1 and 3 would actually give you the right way to look at the particular trend. Now in comparison to this, if you are joining 2 and 3 also, the point is that it is not wrong. So the line joining 2 and 3 is not wrong, but I would say it is not very efficient because there are two reasons. Firstly, it is joining only 2 points, and in this particular case 1 and 3, it is taking care of 3 points. So as I said, the more number of points, the better it is, right? So in the line joining 1 and 3, it is taking care of 3 points, and 2 and 3 is only, of course, 2 points is what you are considering. Second point is that if in case there is a breakdown, so in this case, if you are looking at the line joining 2 and 3, your breakdown point happens to be at this particular point, right? So you are going to be slightly lower or late in terms of identifying the breakdown or the change of trend. Now against that, if you look at the trend line joining 1 and 3, then in this case you got your early exit signal or the shorting opportunity at this particular point itself, which is slightly higher. So net net, the advantage is that you are looking at more number of points, and also your exit signal or the reversal signal comes in much faster in comparison to the line joining 2 and 3. Now in the second case, in this particular plot, what we see here is that here the third low is kind of much way higher than the line joining 1 and 2. So in this particular case, if you are joining 1 and 3, then that is completely wrong, because if you join 1 and 3, then what happens here is that there is a breach at this particular point, as you can see. So I'll just remove, and so this is what I'm talking about. So if you're looking at the trend line joining 1 and 3, then in this case there is a penetration at this particular point, so which violates this particular trend line. So what it will mean is that this line joining 1 and 3 is not a valid trend line. Now if you look at the trend line joining 1 and 2, so 1 and 2 is not wrong, I would say. If you are joining these 2 points, then it is okay to join these points. But again, the same problem is there, that if in case there is a breakdown, if the stocks starts to go down, then your exit signal comes in at a much later stage. And in comparison to that, if you are looking at the trend line joining 2 and 3, in this case your exit signal would come in much earlier, as you can see like here. So you are getting an exit signal at this particular point itself, whereas in the trend line joining 1 and 2 you are getting an exit signal at this particular point. So there is a differential of the exit points. So this is a differential that you get, this is the edge, you can say. So net in case the second point lies above the line joining 1 and 3, so that is how I will draw. And in this particular second case, where the point number 3 is not falling on the trend line joining 1 and 2, then in this case you got to redraw the trend line joining 2 and 3. So this is the most effective trend line, is what I would say. Right now, these concepts were very important because when we move on to the concepts of patterns, the trend lines are very critical in nature, because a pattern is essentially a geometrical shape bounded by two trend lines, one support trend line and one resistance trend line. So if you got these concepts correctly, then you would be able to identify the patterns also correctly. Now again, the next point is that in these examples I have just shown you using a line chart. I'm not using the candle lows or the highs, right? But the principles would remain the same. If you understand these principles clearly, then it does not matter whether you are looking at a line chart or a bar chart. So you can use the same principles in the bar charts also, right? So now net what we have to remember is that when you are drawing a pattern, so a lot of people, what they do is that if there is a sequence of price move like this, moving back and forth, so you got this resistance and then this second resistance, so you can of course draw this trend line, and you had this support line. Now what people get wrong is that when there is a shallow bounce from this point, so they conclude that this is the point number 4, and they end up drawing a support trend line like this, right? So which is what is not correct, because unless and until the prices move to a certain degree, you cannot really say that this was a low. You can only conclude this to be a low, the point number 4 to be a low, only after a reasonable amount of bounce has come in. Before that, you cannot really draw this particular support trend line. Of course, the trend line joining 1 and 3 is correct, but at this juncture you cannot draw the support trend line in that way. So uh, so this is what I just explained. The point number 4 can only be drawn after a proportionate bounce. So this is where you can definitely conclude that yes, the point number 4 has been made, a low has been made, and then of course you can draw the trend line joining 2 and 4. So the other point is that what is the direction to be traded in case of a breakout? So always remember that if there are 4 points in a pattern, which is the minimum number of points that are required, so you got to trade in the direction of the trend line joining 1 and 3. So if your counts start from this particular point, and this is 1 and then this is 2, so the prices must have been moving like this. So of course you got to trade in the direction of the breakout, which is the trend line joining 1 and 3. So this is the direction you trade. Now in case if it, instead of a breakout, if it would have fallen down, then of course your the number of points counting will again reset. So this 2 will become 1, this 3 will become 2, and then 4 will become point number 3, and you will have a new resistance, which will be a new point number 4. So your sequence of the ordering of the counts will change, right? So if there is a breakdown from this level, so this becomes point number 4, so this will be your point number 4. And similarly, then in that case you will be taking a trade in this direction, on the direction of the breakdown. And after this, the other mistake that often people end up doing is that uh, the points need to be alternating in nature. They need to be in a sequence of high low an alternating sequence of highs and lows. Now in this case, you can say that this is point number 1, and let's say this is point number 2. So if there is a bounce you can definitely say that this was a low. And then if it makes another low, the third low happens to be here, and then it goes up, and then again it falls down, so you can count this as a 4. But this is not going to be a valid pattern breakout, because the points are not alternating in nature. So 1 2 3 4, they need to be alternating as a sequence of high low and high low. So if 1 is your high, then 3 has to be a high. Like in this case, if 1 is a high, then 3 has to be a high. And if 2 is a low, then 4 will also be a low. But in this case, 2 is a low, 3 is a low. So which is what invalidates this particular pattern. So these are the basic concepts, and now we will move on straight away to the concepts of how you exactly take a trade in case there is a violation of the trend line. So basically, there are two ways to take a trade. If you have a price sequence which is like going up, if the prices are moving up in an uptrend, like in this particular case, so you can draw a trend line like this. So either you can take a trade once there is a breakdown below the support trend line, or you can assume that the support won't break, and every time the prices come down near the support areas, you can keep buying. So in this particular case also, you would have bought, and maybe it could have gone up as well if the trend line was to hold, and that's where you would have made money on the buy side. And like I have shown here, alternately, the prices this time did not hold and it broke down. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that either you take a trade above the support trend line or at the support trend line, assuming that the trend line will not break, like here, like in these two cases where the trend line did not break and the prices moved up. So you would have made money in both the cases. Or the other way is that you do not take the trade near the support trend line on the buy side, but rather you wait for the support trend line to break. So once it breaks, then you take a short trade. So this is where you go short. So you are not trying to anticipate that the support trend line will hold, but in this particular setup, you are actually waiting for that support trend line to break, and that's where you go short, because no trend line is going to hold forever, right? So that is the assumption. Uh, and with this, the other concept is that what is momentum trading and what is a mean reversion trading. So basically, if you are buying at the support or above the support, that is what is a mean reversion, because you can buy at the support, buy above the support, or buy above the resistance. So for example, if there is a downtrend like this, and uh, if there is a breakout from this particular trend line, so you can buy at this particular point. So either you buy in an uptrend at the support trend line, or you can buy above the resistance trend line. So in these two cases, the difference is that if you are buying at the support, like in this case, then it's a mean reversion trading. So in this particular type of trading, the risk reward is very good, where you just keep a stop loss below the support, right? And you could have a 1:2, 1:3, 1:5 risk reward as well. But in case of a breakout trade, your risk reward may not be very great, but it's like a momentum trading. Your results are very high and your accuracy is going to be much higher. You might not have a very good risk reward, but your strike rate is going to be very high. So both the techniques are in a way correct, but I personally do not buy at the support. I being a momentum trader, I go for this particular technique where I would buy above the resistance. So once there is a break out from the resistance, that's where I buy. So what happens is, after this resistance is broken, the prices move very quickly, and you could make quick money in a very short span of time. Similarly, on the short side, I do not sell at the resistance. So the alternating way to short could have been, if this is a resistance line, this is where you can short. So if you are doing that, then you are betting in the fact on the fact that the resistance trend line will hold. But so that falls into the category of uh, the uh, the mean reversion trade, where you sell below the resistance and you keep a stop loss just above the resistance. So again, it's a very good risk reward trade, but you might not have a very great accuracy because of the fact that by the trend, time that trend line is visible, it could be the time that it is likely to break out, right? So generally, I have seen that people who do this kind of a mean diversion trade where they are buying at the support or selling at the resistance, they do not have a great strike rate, but they do have a great risk reward. And on the other side, if you are buying above the resistance, like in this case, buy above the resistance, so I'm talking about this breakout, or you are, if you are selling below the support, which is this case. So in this particular cases, this is a momentum trade where the prices would be moving very fast and you will have a good strike rate, even though not a great risk reward. So these are the two types of techniques that generally people use that we need to understand. And so with this, I will actually move on to the section of patterns, and we'll look at what type of patterns are there. So what is a pattern? Basically, a pattern is just a geometrical shape which reflects the trading behavior of the market participant. So it is generally bounded by a support or a resistance trend line. There are two lines, a support and a resistance, confining the price movement, and that is, if it takes a certain geometrical shape, then we call that as a pattern. So patterns could be either a reversal or a continuation, uh, and the signals generally are taken on the breakout, like as I said. So if I was to talk about the types of patterns, then primarily there are channels, triangles, wedges, flags and pennants, double tops, double bottoms, head and shoulders, so on and so forth. And there are of course other types of patterns as well. So now let's come to the basic uh, chart pattern. So firstly, it is the channel. So basically, a channel is nothing but a price range where the support and the resistance line are parallel in nature. So whether the support and the resistance line, whether they are flat, horizontal, or whether they are rising or declining, the important point is that they need to be parallel. So if the support and the resistance lines are parallel, then they are called a horizontal channel. Like in this particular case, both the lines are parallel and flat. So that's what makes it a horizontal channel. But in case if both the lines are rising in nature and they are parallel, like in case of a nice drift on the uptrend, so you can maybe see a geometrical shape which is basically a parallel set of parallel lines. So this is what all is called a rising channel. Similarly, the flip side of this is the falling channel. So how do you trade these patterns? So what happens is, in case if there is a breakout, in case of a horizontal channel on the higher side, that's where you buy. And in case if there is a breakdown on the lower side, that's where you can go short. So the direction of the trade could be in either direction. But in case of a rising or a falling channel, the trade direction is ideally is only on the on one particular direction. So for the rising channel, it's basically a structure which is currently bullish, but you are waiting this structure to turn bearish and you are waiting to go short. So basically when there is a breakdown from the support trend line, so this is where you will probably go short. So the idea is to wait for this channel to break down, this rising channel to break down, and you are going to go short. And similarly, in case of a falling channel, this is a bearish structure as of now, because as you can see, the prices are going down and down. But in case if there is a breakout from this point, so this is where you assume that the downtrend is over and the uptrend is going to start. So this is where you buy. Now I have seen a lot of people actually trying to buy above the resistance line also, just to clear this particular concept, that in case if the upper resistance line of a rising channel is broken, it does not give you a fresh buy signal. There is no buy signal at this particular point. It is just that the upper resistance line only gives us the upper estimate of the target, right? So in case the upper resistance line is tested or if it is broken, then you do not consider that there is more strength in the stock. It is just that target 1 has been achieved, and maybe it is just going higher. So you do not buy if your targets are achieved, right? If you would have bought at say a stock at 100, and if you are looking at 110, so if it goes to 111, you don't buy again, right? So that is what I'm trying to say. So similarly, in case if the stock fell below this support line at this particular point, you don't go short here. This is not gives you a fresh shorting signal. So ये गलतियां लोग कई बार करते हैं. So this is what we have to keep in mind. Now coming to the next patterns, which are the triangles. So triangles are very similar to the channel, where the only difference is that in case of a channel, both the lines were parallel, right? In case of a triangle, one of the line is not parallel. I mean, both the lines are not parallel, but they are going to be converging in nature, right? So both these patterns go hand in hand because their targets and the inference of the breakout is very similar. So for example, in case of a rising channel, as I said, the trigger point would be the break below the support trend line of a rising channel, and the breakout from a resistance line of a falling channel, right? And the theoretical target is the width of the particular channel. So what do I mean by the width? The distance between the upper and the lower resistance line at the point at the time of the breakout. So ये जो thickness है, ये जो channel का जो thickness है, this is what becomes your target. So for example, if this was say 100 rupees, sorry for my handwriting, and let's say this is 90. Okay, so this is a 10 rupees gap. So on the higher side, your target would be 110. ठीक है. So similarly, अगर यहाँ पे भी 10 रुपए का गैप रहा होगा, if this was say 90, and if the stock breaks down at 90, then your target will come down to 80. So you are going to be looking at a 10 rupees downside. So ideally, in case of a downside, instead of an absolute number differential, what I take is a percentage difference. So अगर let's say 100 से 90 10% होता है, so 90 से 10% नीचे, so मेरा target actually 80 नहीं, फिर वो 81 होगा. So I would be taking the downside target in terms of the percentages. But idea is that the target happens to be the width of the channel, whether you take in terms of price difference or percentage. Ideally, you should take percentage differences because that gives you a better estimate of the target. Now, फिर अगर हम ये जो ट्रेड लेते हैं, तो what is our stop loss? So stop loss will be once you buy above the resistance line. Let's say you are buying above this resistance line at this particular point. So the stop loss would be ideally the opposite end, but that is all theoretical. Okay. So in practice, what I do is I keep a stop loss somewhere in the middle of the channel. So let's say if a breakout is happening at 100, so if this is let's say 100 rupees, and if a breakout is coming, so I would be, and this lower side is say 90 rupees, then if this is 90, I'm so sorry for, so let's say this is 90 and this is 100, so the target would be 110, but my stop loss I would not keep as 90, maybe I would keep somewhere around 95 is what I would actually keep a stop loss. So this is what is going to be my stop loss. Similarly, in case of the triangles, the inference is very similar. In case of an ascending triangle, which is the first case, where the lower support line is rising in nature, the upper resistance line is flat, but the lower support line is rising in nature. So how you get this pattern is a sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it goes up, right? So यहाँ पे actually breakout up मतलब कोई भी direction में आ सकता है. It could go up. So this is where you buy, and in case if there is a breakdown, this is where you short. So in either case, your targets are going to be the thickness of the channel, or alternately, what you can do is you can draw a parallel line to the lower support line, So I'm considering this lower line, and I would draw a parallel line to this lower support line and from this particular high. So a parallel line to this lower line starting from this high, the first point, is what will give me the target. So both the techniques are correct. So in the case of a descending triangle where you have a flat bottom but your resistance line is going down, so either if there is a breakdown at this particular point, either you can take the thickness of this channel of this area as a target projected on the downside, or alternately you can also draw a parallel line from this particular point. किसके पैरेलल? इसके पैरेलल. ये जो रेजिस्टेंस लाइन है इसका पैरेलल I will draw a resistance, I mean a lower extended line to get my target. And in case of a symmetrical triangle where both the lines are converging, जैसे descending triangle में only the resistance line is descending, that is why it is called a descending, because the other line is a flat one. In case of an ascending triangle, the upper line is a flat but the lower support line is rising in nature, right? But in case of a symmetrical triangle, both the lines are converging in nature. There is no flat line. So in this case, the similarly you can take the trades in either direction. Either you can go short below this support line or you can go long above this resistance line, and your targets will be very similar. अगर ये ऊपर में breakout आ रहा है तो आप यहाँ से एक ऐसा resistance line का parallel एक target line draw करेंगे. अगर आपका breakdown आ रहा है, so in that case you draw a extended target line parallel to this upper resistance line from this particular point. ठीक है? Now moving on to the next pattern, that would be wedge. So wedges are very similar to symmetrical triangles in terms of the shape, but they are actually not. क्योंकि symmetrical triangle में difference ये है कि in a symmetrical triangle both the lines are moving in opposite direction. One line is going up, the other line is going down. But in this case, here in case of a rising wedge, here both the lines are converging. That is okay, but both the lines are in the same direction. So in case of a wedge, what happens is the price keeps on going up, but the incremental growth on the higher side becomes lesser. And that is why instead of becoming a parallel channel, it becomes a wedge. It takes the shape of a wedge. In case of a parallel channel, what happens is that the distances are equal. You know, the difference between the highs and the lows are always equal, and therefore you will have a parallel line. But in case of a wedge, these highs keep on making lesser and lesser. You know, they come lower and lower. So that is what makes the upper resistance line a little flattish. So यहाँ पे अपर रेजिस्टेंस लाइन का एंगल थोड़ा सा कम होता है और ये सपोर्ट लाइन का एंगल थोड़ा सा ज्यादा होता है. So this is a shape which depicts that the aggression on the higher side is getting lesser and lesser, क्योंकि अभी स्टॉक जितना हाई ऊपर में बनाना चाहिए उतना नहीं बना पा रहा है. So gradually your shape is, you know, it is kind of contracting in nature, and the only way to trade is in the direction of the breakdown. So in case of a rising wedge, it is a bearish structure and you take the trade in the direction of the breakdown. So you take a short position once the support line is broken, or you should be you should exit the long positions. Generally these wedge formations are often you know, one of the most powerful formations, and they often indicate the end of a rally or the end of a rising structure. Similarly, in case of a falling wedge, the prices, as you can see, they all keep on making a sequence of lower highs and lower lows, but instead of a parallel channel अगर होता तो ये low इस line पे आने चाहिए थे, right? But it is not happening that way. So it is converging, but it is not also a symmetrical triangle where, as I said, the symmetrical triangle both the lines are in opposite direction. They are converging but in opposite direction. But in the case of a wedge, they are in the same direction, and they are not also parallel. So they are not neither symmetrical triangle, neither a channel. They are in between, right? So in case of a falling wedge, you take a bullish trade because this would indicate the end of a downtrend. So these are generally, as I said, found at the important reversal points. And in case if you happen to find any of these patterns after a prolonged rally or a prolonged downtrend, then you can expect to be a major reversal coming up in the stock. Okay. Now next pattern is flags and pennants. Basically एक flag structure का मतलब ये होता है कि let's say एक जैसे if there is a if a stock let's say was moving sideways, okay, and then let's say it gives a breakout because of some news flow, ठीक है, so the stock goes vertically up, very fast, rapidly. So after a point, what happens is that given the fact that the stock has moved so rapidly, it is very likely to take a brief pause, and then what happens is the stock continues the next leg of the journey. So ये flag structure generally हमको ये जो brief pause है, this is what we call as a flag. So flag essentially is preceded by a vertical move which is called the pull, and the flag in itself is a flat horizontal congestion lasting for about 2 to 5 days, 6 days, बहुत brief span का, okay. uh, and then once the this congestion is broken, then that is where you can consider that the next leg of the rally will start. So generally a flag formation is found at the midway. So if this is the flag, so we can expect that this is only the 50% of the move, so the next 50% move is here. So flag structure में generally moves बहुत बड़े बड़े आते हैं और बहुत fast आते हैं, ठीक है. So the idea is that why does a flag is seen? So ये उसलिए आता है क्योंकि क्या होता है कि because of a news flow, let's say if the move has been very quick and fast, so lot of people who were short, they are not able to exit, and neither many people are even able to buy because the stock moved very fast, very quickly. So people who wanted to buy in quantities, they did not get enough quantity. Now the problem is that those who are short, they are trapped. Now the best hope for them is that the stock will correct. Maybe they are expecting that if the stock comes down, they will cover their shorts, but that doesn't happen because the news flow is so strong and the sentiment is so strong that the stock actually doesn't correct. So once the next leg of the rally again starts to happen, all these people who are in short, they really start to panic, और वो फिर यहाँ पे आके बाय करते हैं. Also the people who were waiting for the stock to come down thinking that this is where I will buy, they don't get an opportunity. So if they wanted to buy, they will now have to buy at higher and higher prices only. So the whole world jumps in because the stock is really making a lot of noise, and of course जो short है वो फंस गया है, और जो नया लेने वाला था उनको दिखता है कि अभी शायद ये स्टॉक और नीचे नहीं आएगा. So this is where they will eventually end up buying, right? Similarly, in case of a downtrend, ये very similar है. यहाँ पे भी एक congestion, and then the next leg of the rally on the downside should start. So pennant और flag में खाली difference ये होता है कि pennant एक छोटा सा symmetrical triangle जैसा दिखता है, whereas the flag is a parallel line. It could be like this or it could be like this. So स्ट्रक्चर वाइज डिफरेंस ये है कि सिमेट्रिकल ट्रायंगल एक बड़ा शेप है, ये इस टाइप का शेप होगा सिमेट्रिकल ट्रायंगल, इट विल एक्सटेंड ओवर अ वेरी लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, ओके. बट इन केस ऑफ अ pennant, this could be like a very mini one, like 1 or 2 day. So a symmetrical triangle could be to the tune of maybe a month or 2 months or 3 months, but a pennant would be only for about 2-3 days, right? So this is the difference between the flags and the pennants, and not to get confused with the symmetrical triangle. Okay, now the next pattern is the double bottoms and the double tops. तो डबल बॉटम और डबल टॉप का मतलब क्या है? डबल टॉप मतलब ये है कि जब आपके प्राइसेस एक बार एक अपट्रेंड में थे और एक मान लो उसने एक नया हाई बनाया, उसके बाद में इफ द स्टॉक कम्स डाउन, so it is natural for the stock to correct, and then it goes up again very close to the previous top. ये पहला जो टॉप था उसी के पास गया, बट यहां से फिर क्या हुआ, यहां से इंस्टेड ऑफ गोइंग अप एनी फर्दर, व्हाट हैपेंस इज इट गोज डाउन, and breaks below this intermediate support. So you have a situation where your two tops are very close by, and then after making the tops at equal level, the prices come down and break below this intermediate support. So this is where you get a confirmation of the double top. You can say that the trend is reversing now, right? So this is where you should go short or you can exit your long position. Similarly, in case of a downtrend, ये एक low बनाया and then there is a rally and then again the stock starts to go down and it looked like that it will actually go down this way. But instead of doing that, it halts at the previous low. ये पहले वाला low था, यहीं पे आके ये रुक गया and then what happens is it starts to bounce. So when do you consider that the trend is reversing? You consider the trend to have reversed at this particular point when this particular high is broken. Lot of people say that थोड़ा सा बाउंस आते ही वो बोलते हैं कि ऐसा ये गिरा फिर ये एक रैली आया, उसके बाद में जैसे ये गिरने के बाद वेरी सिमिलर यहाँ पे आया, थोड़ा सा बाउंस आते ही लोग बोलते हैं कि यार ये डबल बॉटम बन गया है. इट इज वेरी रॉन्ग बिकॉज एट दिस पॉइंट यू कैनॉट से कि ये डबल बॉटम यहाँ पे बन गया है. हाँ, आप जरूर इसका स्टॉप लॉस पे एक ऐसे रैंडमली एक ट्रेड ले सकते हो, वो बात अलग है, but you cannot say that it is a double bottom confirmation. Your confirmation will happen only above this line, because what can happen is the stock instead of a bounce it can simply go boom. तो ये रिस्क आपका रहता है कि अगर आप ट्रेंड के अगेंस्ट में जाके कंफर्मेशन से पहले ही इफ यू आर टेकिंग अ कॉन्ट्रा ट्रेड, you could lose the trade as well. Okay. So यहाँ पे अगर हम टारगेट की बात करें, so the target comes in again the same, the thickness of the channel extrapolated on the higher side. Say for example, if this lows were around say 100, so this was 100 and this was say 99 or 98 or maybe 101, very similar, very close by, ठीक है. और ये पीक आपका था 110, so ये 100 पे आया, फिर 110 गया and then it comes to 99 and then now it is going up. So you buy above 110 and your target will be 120. Okay. So this is how you estimate the targets for the double tops and double bottoms. इसी का एक और वेरिएशन आता है डबल के बदले ट्रिपल, जहां पे ये प्राइस दो बार मारा, फिर उसके बाद यहाँ पे ब्रेकडाउन नहीं दिया, फिर ये वापस से ऊपर चला गया. अगेन it makes a third attempt to break past this level, because यहाँ से फिर ये ब्रेकआउट आ भी सकता है, बिल्कुल आ सकता है, बट ये ब्रेकआउट आने के बदले ये अगेन इट मूव्स डाउन. So at this particular point, this is where you get a triple top confirmation. ये एक टॉप, ये दूसरा टॉप और ये तीसरा टॉप. So you have three tops and finally you got the breakdown at this particular point and this is a short trade. And now the next pattern is the most talked one that most people always look for are the head and shoulders. ये बहुत कॉमन नाम है जो लोग हमेशा यूज करते हैं. तो in case of a head and shoulder, basically what happens is that there is a rising price, it goes down, makes a new high and then it comes down again. So up till this point everything is very normal, यहाँ पे कुछ abnormal कुछ नहीं है. Okay. And then it goes up, but what happens is कि instead of crossing the previous high, ये ऊपर नहीं गया, ये ऊपर नहीं जा पाया, ये उससे पहले ये वाला हाई नहीं क्रॉस कर पाया, ये उसके पहले ही somewhere very close to the left, ये RS नहीं होगा, सॉरी, ये लेफ्ट हैंड साइड है, ये LS है, लेफ्ट शोल्डर, and this is right shoulder, this is right shoulder. Okay. So ये आपका जो राइट शोल्डर है, ये राइट शोल्डर लेफ्ट शोल्डर दोनों बहुत सिमिलर लेवल्स पे हैं, और ये ऊपर जाने के बदले ये राइट शोल्डर यहां से मार के इट कम्स डाउन एंड it breaks this support trend line. So this support trend line is called the neckline. This is called the neckline, as you can see. So you get a short trade at this particular point. So जैसे ही ये आपका neckline break होता है, you get a short signal. Now what is the target for estimating a breakdown head and shoulder? ये आपका ये जो breakdown जहां से आ रहा है, यहां से आप ये एक्सटेंड करेंगे किसको, ये वाले लाइन को. ये जो आपका हेड से सीधा वर्टिकली अगर आप एक लाइन ड्रॉप करते हो नेक लाइन पे, ये जो आपका डिस्टेंस आ रहा है, दिस इज व्हाट यू विल एक्सटेंड फ्रॉम द ब्रेकडाउन पॉइंट ऑन द लोअर साइड. सिमिलरली इन केस ऑफ अ इन्वर्टेड हेड एंड शोल्डर, इसको हम इन्वर्टेड हेड एंड शोल्डर बोलते हैं क्योंकि ये उल्टा है. ठीक है. So here the structure is that this is the head, this is the left shoulder, and this is the right shoulder. Okay, so this is a bullish formation, and this was a bearish formation. This was a bearish formation, as you can see, right? But this is a bullish setup. So यहाँ पे ये stock ऐसे डाउन ट्रेंड में अगर था, then it goes up, makes a new low. This is the head, and then again a bounce. So यहाँ तक normal है वापस. So it can always go down like this. Nothing special in that. But यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि instead of going down, ये आपका ये head के नीचे नहीं जाता है. It halts somewhere above that particular this line, and instead it now goes up. So ये जो जैसे ही ये वाला neckline का जो breakout आता है, this is where you get a buy signal. और similarly यहाँ पे भी आपका target estimate will be the distance between the head and the neckline, which should be extended on the higher side. ठीक है, यहाँ पे आप स्टॉप लॉस क्या रखेंगे? आइडियली आपको ये लेफ्ट शोल्डर राइट शोल्डर का जो बॉटम में है बेस है, इसको आप रख सकते हो. यहाँ पे जब आप शॉर्ट करेंगे, दिस इज वेयर यू कैन कीप अ स्टॉप लॉस. यू आर शॉर्टिंग हियर and you can keep a stop loss here. But if it looks too wide, then I will tell you what is the solution. Generally what I have seen is, in this type of a breakout trading, whether it is a head and shoulder, whether it is a triangle, whether it is a pennant, flag, whatever, generally what I have seen is a 3% to about 4% stop loss is good enough for your momentum trading. उससे ज्यादा स्टॉप लॉस देने का जरूरत नहीं पड़ता है. So in case if your right shoulder is very close to 3% or 4%, then you go for the right shoulder as the stop loss. But अगर ये बहुत deep है, हो ही सकता है कि ये 10% नीचे है. So in that case, I would keep a stop loss somewhere around here, because the idea is that if the breakout is to succeed, then it should not come down much below the breakout line. ये neckline के नीचे ज्यादा नहीं आना चाहिए. थोड़ा सा margin of error हम रखेंगे, but then it should not come down to a great extent. So 3%, 4% stop loss is good enough, and then you are looking at this upside. Okay. Now coming to the next point. So let's just look at some live charts. Okay. So I'll just quickly take you through the live charts. Just a minute. I hope you can see my screen. Nitesh, can you just confirm? Is my software?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, fine. Okay, so I'll just roughly take you through some of the charts, and we will see if there are any patterns that we are able to see. So this is the daily chart, and this is the Ambuja Cement daily chart. तो यहाँ पे आप देखिए, यहाँ पे जैसे हमको एक राइजिंग चैनल का एक एग्जांपल मिल गया है, राइट? यहाँ पे ये एक लो बना, ये एक हाई, एंड देन यू नो इट इज अ नाइस सीक्वेंस ऑफ हाइज एंड लोज. सो मेन बात ये है कि यहाँ पे ये जो सपोर्ट लाइन है, दिस लोअर सपोर्ट लाइन इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट. सो यहाँ पे दिस इज द लाइन विच आई एम लुकिंग एट. या तो मैं यहाँ पे बाई कर सकता हूँ बाई कीपिंग अ स्टॉप लॉस बिलो दिस सपोर्ट लाइन, और या तो मैं ये टूटने के बाद आई विल गो शॉर्ट. बट मैं यहाँ पे कभी बाई नहीं करूंगा. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि ये यहाँ से ऐसे ऊपर की तरफ आ गया, so I will buy here. So this is the point that I was trying to make. A lot of people make this mistake. They go long again if the upper target line is, this is the target line. So target line टूट जाए तो उसके ऊपर आप breakout पे वहां पे आप buy नहीं करते हैं. वो it's not right. Okay. Personally, how I look at these setups is that, as I said, being a momentum trader, I look for shorting opportunities in a rising channel. So for me, if this stock gives a breakdown below this particular support line, I would have gone short, and maybe I will keep a stop loss somewhere around here. Okay. But if you are going for a mean reversion trade, or you know, trying to take the advantage of the support line, then maybe you could have bought at about these support areas around this is somewhere around I guess 290, 95, and maybe you could have kept a stop loss below 290 to about 285 as a, so 5-7 rupees stop loss you could have kept, and you would be looking at an upside target of about 220 to 25. So this is what is the setup here. Now let's look at a few more charts. Okay, so this is AB Capital. So as you can see, there was a symmetrical triangle. So can you see this? That this is a shape 1 2 3 4, और ये यहाँ पे breakout जैसे ही ये line टूटा, this red line, this is where you got a breakout signal, and just see what happened. So it was a very explosive move. So ideally, when I would have taken a trade at this, say about this was a 92 93 level, I would have kept a stop loss at this point, which was about 88. Okay. जब तक ये नीचे का सपोर्ट लाइन नहीं टूट रहा है, द पैटर्न इज वैलिड, बट यू डोंट हैव टू कीप सच अ डीप स्टॉप लॉस, बिकॉज इन केस इफ योर लोअर सपोर्ट लाइन इज ब्रोकन, which was somewhere around 80, it's a huge loss, right? So वहां पे आपका risk reward भी खराब हो जाएगा. So ideally I would keep a stop loss around here, at about 88. The breakout came in at about 92, and I would be looking for the thickness of the breakout area. So 92 ये ऊपर का है, और ये नीचे में अगर ये roughly about 80 81 था, so about 10-12 rupees from 92. So I would be looking at somewhere around 100 to 104 as a target. So you can see that in a very short span, 1 to 3 days, it just moved to the highs of 104. Okay, and then of course वहां से थोड़ा सा फिर नीचे आया, but then the stock just kept on going up. Okay, so of course I would not have been able to predict the move up till 120 or 130, but I would be looking only up to 104, right? uh, Now let's look at some more charts. So this is Biocon. So यहाँ पे again, as you can see, there was a support trend line breakdown below this support on a gap down. So that is what actually destroyed the structure of the stock. और ये जैसे ही ये यहाँ पे breakdown आया, the stock immediately fell down very sharply. So the breakdown happened at about 420 odd levels. ये gap down में नीचे ही खुला था. So it opened somewhere around 420 only, and then it just slipped to about 360 levels in the next 3-4 days very quickly. Similarly, देखिए ये Cadilla में there are two structures. So Cadilla में this was a rising channel, as you can see. So the breakdown kind of gave at this particular candle, but after the breakdown the stock actually did not go down much, right? You can see it actually bounced off a bit, and it just kept on hovering. So the breakdown came in at about 460, but immediately gira nahi, it went to 480, and then eventually it came down. Okay. तो ये एक चीज है कि कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कि नॉट एवरी टाइम दैट अ पैटर्न गिव्स अ ब्रेकआउट और अ ब्रेक डाउन, इट विल ऑलवेज प्ले आउट. एज आई सेड, इट्स जस्ट अ गेम ऑफ प्रोबेबिलिटीज. इसी के लिए मैंने वो प्रोबेबिलिटी का कहा था. सो द आइडिया इज दैट दैट इज वेयर योर मनी मैनेजमेंट एंड स्टॉप लॉसेस विल कम इनटू पिक्चर. और उसके बाद जब यहाँ पे फिर ये एक सिमिलरली एक रेजिस्टेंस लाइन अगर हम ड्रॉ करें, so maybe if I'm looking at this particular point, then I would be drawing a simple resistance trend line like this. So I got a breakout at this particular point, right? So this was about 440, and then you see what happened, the stock just moved up. So यहाँ पे 440 पे अगर हमने ट्रेड लिया होता तो 420 would have been a good stop loss, good enough stop loss. I would have just kept a stop loss below this candle at this particular point. Okay, now few more charts. Okay, escorts. So escorts, as you can see, there is kind of a support line which is there, and then let me just see. Okay, so there was. I'll just remove all the lines. So at this particular point, also you could have drawn a resistance line like this. A set of resistance lines. Maybe I would have worked with this particular resistance line. So the stock gave a breakout, and then it fell a bit and then moved up. Similarly, यहाँ पे this was a support breakdown. So the breakdown happened here. So if I go back, here is one more structure. This is again kind of a support breakdown, as you can see. ये support जैसे ही यहाँ पे टूटा, so the stock fell, right? This is Hero Motor. Again, there was a breakdown, as you can see from the support at this particular point. So if you're looking at this particular point, So you have a support trend line, and then it gave a breakdown. So after that, it just moved down. Okay, so now what else? Yeah, ITC. So there is a very nice support trend line in existence. यहाँ पे ये जैसे we have connected all the lows and the bases, and that is what is giving me a support trend line. Well, in JSW Energy, this is what happened. Basically, it was moving in a channel. It did not give a breakdown, because a breakdown below this support trend line would have taken the stock down. But instead, what happened was, यहाँ पे जैसे देखिए, अगर आप यहाँ पे congestion बना हुआ था. So this was a mini symmetrical triangle. Let me remove this so that you can concentrate. Okay, so when you are looking at this area, so you are just joining the two highs, and you are just joining the two lows, right? So this is what kind of gives you a symmetrical triangle breakout. ये आपका gap up नहीं खुला, फिर ये एकदम से सीधा 78 के ऊपर में breakout आया, and then it just went up. Okay, so this is JSW Energy. There's nothing, I guess. Okay, so this is let's say which stock, KSCL. So apparently the stock moved in a sideways channel. As you can see, let me draw the channel. This is the channel that I'm talking about. So maybe there is some kind of a breakout which is likely to happen. So again, there is some kind of a visible breakout from a congestion. Is what is there. Now again, if you just go back, there is a very interesting setup that was there in KCL itself. जैसे यहाँ पे there was a clear support, and this was the resistance. So what you get here is a descending triangle, right? So once this stock gave a breakdown at this particular point, you see what happened, right? Obviously इसका shape क्योंकि बड़ा था, so the pattern extended for quite a while, so therefore the move after the breakdown was also very significant. Okay, now what is next? Okay, so I just wanted to show this chart of LNT. जैसे this is a weekly chart. Okay, so on the weekly chart at this particular point, you can simply draw a support trend line like this. I'm converting this to the daily chart for your better understanding. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so this is the area I'm looking at. Okay, so यहाँ पे what is your supports? देखिए यहाँ पे ये एक low है, and then this is a flat where every time the stock came down somewhere around 1250, 1260, and it took off, correct? But यहाँ पे क्या हुआ? It failed to hold that support, and after that it just simply collapsed, right? So of course this was during the COVID period, but then that is what actually gave you a good shorting signal. So let's say let me find some more. Okay, so let me pull this chart bit light. I think there is something. Okay, yeah. So there is a nice symmetrical triangle, and there was a breakout. So it just moved up, right? Similarly, PNB Housing Finance, there was a symmetrical triangle breakout at this particular point, and then the stock just moved up. You can see this, right? Okay, so this is again RBL Bank, where there was a breakdown from a symmetrical triangle. Yeah, this is the lower end, lower support line. Only these 2 points are important, and on the higher side, this is your resistance. So the breakdown happened here, and then the stock just gave its way up. Okay, there is a Tech Mahindra. So this is again an example of a descending triangle where the breakout happened. So ये breakout होने के बाद probably the target was not met, but the stock did come down and then it is going sideways and then it moved up. So आपका शायद आप ट्रेड इतना देर तक तो पकड़ के नहीं रखेंगे. So this is what I'm saying, that every time there is a breakout, it's not necessary that all your targets in theory will be met. So you have to look at other factors also, which I will be briefly sharing in the next slides. So these are some of the examples that you got to keep in mind. Once you practice all of them, then your eyesight will be tuned to these patterns, and uh, the ability to forecast or to be able to see or take the trades will come only with practice, right? For example, in the recent structure, let me show the Nifty chart itself. So Nifty, this is what has happened. So there is a support trend line, it broke and then it is just going sideways. So it's not necessary that every time there is a breakdown or breakout, it will pan out as per your plan. So now let me pull one more chart, Nifty mid cap. So this is a very important index to me. So again, mid cap index has not broken. So mid cap index is just holding this support trend line. So this is the present context. So this is what is all about, live charts. And in terms of the frequency of the occurrence, if you ask me, so I would say basically triangles, flag, channel, or pure trend line. ये सारे आपके जो है ना, these will come with a frequency of 20% each. So they will be like 80% आपके इसी में आ जाएंगे. Maximum triangle, flags, channels, या तो simple trend line. बाकी जो head and shoulder, wedge या double bottom, double tops, ये बहुत कम आते हैं, because these if you notice that these formations are actually reversal formations. जैसे मैंने बताया, head and shoulder हमेशा reversal indicate करता है, बड़ा reversal. Wedge ये भी बड़ा reversal indicate करता है. Double bottom, double top जो भी, या ट्रिपल बॉटम ट्रिपल टॉप, ये ऑफ कोर्स आपका मतलब एक मेजर टॉप पे ही आएगा जहां पे ट्रेंड रिवर्स हो रहा है, या मेजर बॉटम पे आएगा. बट ये आपके चैनल्स, ट्रायंगल्स और जो भी ट्रेंड लाइंस है, दीज आर ऑल कंटिन्यूएशन पैटर्न्स. कंटिन्यूएशन पैटर्न मतलब आपका ऐसा ट्रेंड चल रहा है, फॉर एग्जांपल यू आर गोइंग इन एन अप ट्रेंड, so you could get a just a trade in the direction of the trade as well. So ये आपके या ट्रायंगल, आपका ऐसा ट्रायंगल बना हुआ है. So the stock was going up and then it formed a symmetrical triangle and then it gave a breakout, right? So ये आपके इस टाइप के continuation, जो trend के continuation वाले formations हैं, they will always be more in occurrence. So what are the challenges? Now let's come to the practical application side. So basically the challenge that as a professional trader one would face is the the pain to find out stocks every day. So that is of course some tedious work, and you have to be dedicated towards your commitment if you want to be a professional trader, or be an analyst or some kind of role that you're looking at. Then predicting the markets, of course market हमेशा आपकी तरह से नहीं चलेगा, and you will feel that you have been dissed by the market, and you are suffering losses, and that is going to add stress to your mental ability to think, and of course it's going to impact you emotionally a lot, which in turn will have an impact in your trading performance as well. So ये सारे बहुत सारे मतलब जो challenges आते हैं लोगों को, और इसके लिए people look for better tools, better softwares, some holy grail, some formula, magic formula, or some gurus. So the hunt goes on, right? But actually problem will not be solved if you are looking for some shortcuts. The only way out is to logically identify what goes wrong and what are the solutions for that. So in my opinion, there are only three types of problems. Yeah, all your problems can be categorized into three legs, I would say. So one is the method, that if you do not have a good method or a sound technique, you will have a problem. Second, if you do not have a proper money management and a risk management principle in place, एक trading rule नहीं है, कितना पैसा लगाना है, कितना every stock, how much should I buy, how much should I risk, what is the stop loss I should keep, what is the horizon I should hold the stock. ऐसा नहीं कि जब तक प्रॉफिट में नहीं आ रहा है हम नहीं बेचेंगे. दिस इज व्हाट मोस्ट ऑफ द रिटेल पीपल डू. They don't sell their stocks if it is at a loss, and that is what lands them into a trouble, when market goes down. And the third problem is the mind game. Emotionally जब आपका profit होता है तो we tend to get carried away, we tend to take more positions, and we tend to leverage, take more risk. But वही जब market हमारे against में जाता है, that backfires, or that's where our psychological problem starts. We do not then think logically. Fit we come under stress, and we at times feel like not participating in the market as well, or you are in doubt whether to take the trade, next trade or not. तीन loss हो गया, so fourth trade हमको लेना है नहीं लेना है, कितना लेना है. So these are the things that come up. So if we address these problems one by one, so firstly, method के जैसे मैंने बताया कि at least you must have one method which you are master. I have discussed about only one method, which is the pattern trading. Of course, in this limited amount of time, I could not deliver much. The idea was just to introduce yourself to the effectiveness of this concept. There are a lot of methods using indicators. As I said, indicators आप use कर सकते हैं. Mix of indicators and patterns use कर सकते हैं. आपका Japanese हो गया या आपका elite way हो गया. You can do whatever you want, but the idea is that your method must have a logical premise, और वो आपका उस पे आपको मास्टरी होनी चाहिए. Second is that you must decide on the horizon, whether you are an intraday trader, whether you are a positional trader, and according to that you should be looking at the chart. So if you are a day trader, under no circumstance you should carry your position to the next day. Okay. uh, Similarly, in terms of the asset classes also, you need to decide what is the instrument that you want to trade. If you do not understand currency or commodity, don't go into it, because people have a tendency to trade everything. So I'm not saying that it is wrong to trade across all the asset classes, but then you must take them once you understand. So you should spend a lot of time to understand what kind of asset classes you are comfortable with. So if you're trading currencies or commodities, they run late. Okay. So if you're trading currencies, then you need to have an understanding of the economy also, and the other currencies also. So it has to be looked in that context. So in terms of your strategy, there are certain things that you need to keep in mind: the strike rate, risk reward, how many trades you are going to take, and the run of losses and all that. Okay. So this is what you have to keep in mind, the risk reward ratios and the return that you will expect in a particular year. Now, why money management is important? So as I said, what happens is, if you do not pre-calculate your amount to be deployed in a particular position, then what happens is you end up over leveraging. Once you over leverage, then your positions become too sensitive. So जैसे ही आपका over leveraging हो गया, and then if the prices go against you, your losses are larger than what you would have expected. So let's say if you're comfortable with a loss of 10,000 rupees, now if your position is size is much bigger, and then what happens is your loss, जब आपका stop loss level आता है तो वो 10,000 नहीं, वो आपको 40,000 रुपए दिखता है, because you have taken 4 times of the position that you should have taken. So you are comfortable with 10,000, maybe 15,000, but not 40,000. So that's where you compromise on the stop loss, right? That's where you compromise on the stop loss, and then what happens is, we all know, disaster complete. The other thing is that what if we maintain stop losses? So if we maintain stop losses, lot of people say that अरे stop loss maintain किया लेकिन वो stop loss खा जाता है, फिर ऊपर आ जाता है. So in my opinion, that is absolutely fine, because if I'm saying that if I have a strike rate of say about 70%, so what will happen is 70% of the trades I will end up into profit, no problems here. But the rest of the 30% trades I will lose. Now, if you do not maintain a stop loss, what you will see is that out of those 30 trades, maybe 27 trades will reverse later. Okay. and you will feel कि फालतू में मैंने उधर में लॉस लिया. It was not necessary. But the point is, what about the rest of the three trades? The rest of the three trades are going to be like atom bombs. ठीक है, वो आपका पूरा पोर्टफोलियो डिस्ट्रॉय कर देगा. So in the other 27 trades, you might have saved some, 10%, 15% of your money, maybe, by not taking a stop loss, and later on you exited at cost or maybe in some marginal profit. But for the rest of the three trades which never come back are the examples of Arcom, maybe DHFL, maybe a Yes Bank, maybe JP Associate, Suzlon. There are a lot of examples which you know, right? And they can completely destroy your portfolio. So you will not know whether a trade that you are taking today could become a DHFL or a Yes Bank. There's no way to understand that a 600 rupee stock will come down to a 6 rupee. So वो long term buy हम hold करके रख देंगे, that would work on a bull market, and that is what actually encourages you to develop the bad habits. But other professional trader, I would say that it is important for you to maintain some stop loss, some risk management in place, because knowing कि मैं ये loss ले रहा हूँ फालतू में 1% का 2% का loss I am taking unnecessarily, I know that, but that will always keep me in the game, because then I would know I would never face a situation where I bought a stock at 500, now it is trading at 10 rupees. Okay, so this is what is always going to keep you in the game, because smaller losses can be recovered easily. If your method is good, you will first of all suffer lesser number of losses, and whatever losses you are suffering, that can easily be recovered now. So that is the whole idea. So the next important point is that how do you control your mind? So first of all, as I said, define your risk per trade. दूसरा ये है कि not only your stop losses to be used as a price, but your stop losses could also be in terms of the time. Like this is the principle that I use. If a stock after a breakout does not move in my direction, I do not hold the stock for more than 5 days. Okay, I give it a reasonable amount of time to move, and if it doesn't, then I completely liquidate. I don't hold the stock forever. So that is what. So the other thing is that you just have to keep in mind every trade is a probability, which means it could go right, it could go wrong. So you have to be open to the fact कि ठीक है, I have a stop loss, I have a target, it could go either way. And since I have a I rely my method, I will have the end result as a profit, because whatever losses I make, in comparison to that, the profits will be much more higher. सो ये प्रोबेबिलिटी के हिसाब से देखना है. दूसरा ये है कि थिंकिंग एंड एग्जीक्यूटिंग, इसके बीच में एक साइकोलॉजिकल गैप होता है. हम बहुत प्लानिंग कर लेते हैं मार्केट खुलने के पहले कि हम ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे, ऐसा करेंगे, वैसा करेंगे. बट देन द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट इफ यू डू नॉट हैव दीज प्रिंसिपल्स इन प्लेस, देन मार्केट में आके फिर आपका सारा वो जो थॉट है, वो प्लानिंग है, वो पूरा खराब हो जाता है. यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू एग्जीक्यूट योर प्लान. So you just have to go for it and believe in yourself and your method, right? Okay, so the next point is booking losses versus accepting losses. What does it mean? Booking losses means that if there is a stock that you bought and it went wrong, you had a stop loss, you close the position. That is just booking losses. Accepting means that you have been able to mentally reconcile with the losses. You have been mentally been able to absorb the loss. मतलब वो loss के बारे में आप नहीं सोच रहे हो. Booking loss मतलब हमने book कर लिया और उसके बारे में हम सोच ही रहे हैं खाली. Next statement that is going to impact. So it is very important that you think like a machine completely, and you should not be bothered about the loss that happened or the profit that happened in the last trade. और ये जो मैंने अभी स्टेटमेंट कहा, you should not be bothered about the last loss, ये तभी पॉसिबल है once you have the pre-calculated amount of loss in place. If you suffer a loss which is much more higher, then of course you will not be able to take that loss. Okay, so the other point is just go ahead and take the trade. You know, in a way, what I'm saying is you have to be in a way to some extent fearless in terms of the market. Now the next point is understanding the environment. Okay, so when I say environment, what has to be understood is that you know, there is a top-down approach, in terms of the overall market behavior. So when you are trying to take a trade on a particular day, then it is important for you to understand what is going on around. Like, you know, you track the global indices, you look at the sectors. A lot of people also look at derivative data and the institutional activity. So my sense is that your sentiment is very important for you to understand, because that will give you a sense of the market in itself, whether this is the right moment to take the breakout, because you will see a lot of breakouts and breakdowns coming in every time. But do you always take those trades every time? It is not necessary to take all the signals, right? So if you have an understanding of the market environment, जैसे कैसे करें? What I do is I scan through all the stocks in NSE 200, okay, and I look into the number of trades that I'm getting on the buy side or on the short side. So if there are more trades on the buy side, then I know that market is bullish, and if there are more trades on the short side, then I know it's bearish. And similarly, if there are no trades, na buy na sell, then I know market is not going to not going to do anything, right? So looking at the individual stocks charts will give you a lot more understanding of the market. I'm not saying that don't look at the Nifty chart directly, but I'm saying that if you are trying to understand what is the market environment, try to look at the individual stocks, right? So with this, I would just conclude what we discussed today. So basically, there are various methods. You need to master at least one method to be a professional trader, and then you have to know what kind of trader you are, whether you are a short term, you are an intraday, or you are a long term positional type of a player. So that will give you the comfort to trade, because not everybody is built in a similar way. Okay, then at least have an understanding of the global environment, the market environment, and the sentiment. Fix a realistic goal for yourself, how much money you think that you can make using this particular method over a period of time. You know, people come for doubling their money every month. I'm not saying that it is not possible, but do you have the ability? Do you have that method? If you have it, good. If you don't have it, then set what is realistic for you. Don't bother if your friend is making 200% in a day in option trading. He's not going to give you money, right? So you focus on your method. You try to see how you can improve your method, and you got to know your method well. That is very important. How much run of losses you can suffer, how much trades you will get in a day or in a month. So that frequency, how much time does it take to recover if you suffer a loss? So these are the things that you got to understand, and avoid revenge trading. अगर loss होता है, लोग क्या करते हैं, उसको recover करने के लिए they jump in immediately. So that is very something which is I feel not the wise thing to do. uh, so you got to wait for the market to give you the right opportunity. Okay, and lastly, don't have to be correct always to make money. This is a statement I always advise to people. So with this, I will come to the end of this presentation, and with the thought that Rome was not built in a day, yeah, but Hiroshima was destroyed in a day. That is what we got to remember. So for investors, the first line is valid. For traders, the second line is valid. So thank you so much. And with this, if you have any questions, we can just do a quick round of question answer session.